Today we'll be covering the rules for the 2101 game. This is my little venture into more mainstream card games, I suppose. Using your standard four suits, using some poker style betting, that sort of thing. So, not really my deal, but I was pretty interested by this game. Seemed like it had some interesting ideas. Seemed like it went a couple of directions I hadn't seen before in this style of game anyway. So without anything further, let's take a look at the rules. Okay, so I've got the table set up how I'll use it for a three-player game. Of course, the three players will be spread out a bit more, but for the sake of the video, I've got them right next to each other. Real quick thing, as far as the face-down bet pad right there, this face-up bet pad, and the pocket bet, which is also the dealer tab right there. The rule book itself is not real specific on how to use those. What I plan on doing is I'm going to have, this is where when the face down bets occur, I'm going to put them on in this general area and the face up bets there. And this is going to get passed around obviously so you know who the dealer is, but at the same time I suppose we'll keep the pocket bets in the area around that. I've gone on and just put them out on the table, probably not in the best spots for when you're playing, just so you have an idea of the different components that are going to be in use during the game. So now the first thing you're going to do is you'll pay the table bet, as they call it, which you're anteing up for anybody that is familiar with any sort of poker type games at all. And then you're going to do the deal. So each player will have 3 cards dealt to them. So you've got your 3 cards dealt to you. Now these are your pocket cards. So each player is going to pick these up, and they'll look at them. They've got them in their hand, basically. Pocket, hand, those are synonymous in this game. So we'll go in and move these off the table, but each player will have those in his hand. Next, you'll be dealt your face-up cards. At that point, as those cards come out, everyone would check to see if they managed to receive, just by sheer luck, a 2101. So that would be any combination of a 2, a 10, and an ace. Doesn't matter what order they came out, it doesn't matter what the suit. If you've got those 3 cards face up, you have a 2101. On the other hand, if you have a 2 of diamonds, a 10 of clubs, and an ace of spades, you have a natural 2101. Now what happens when you get one of these? If you have a 2101 of any suits, then it's an automatic win. You get the table bets that are already out there, and then you also get you get 7 times the table bet from each other player. If you have a natural 2101, then you're going to get the table bet plus 21 times the table bet from each other player. And 21 times the table bet, of course, represents the maximum bet that anybody's allowed. Now, assuming that nobody has a 2101 or a natural 2101, the next step, of course, is to deal out the face-down cards. At that point, you're ready to go. One additional note, when you're looking for a 2101, that can be either face-up or in your pocket cards. And if multiple players have a 2101 or a natural 2101, then they would actually each get the appropriate reward depending on what that was. Of course, a natural 2101 would beat the regular 2101s, and therefore only the natural would get it in that case. The best face-up cards will determine who goes first. And the only cards that count when you're initially looking at it are going to be 2101 cards. And as you can see, we only have one on the entire board, the ace. However, if instead However, if instead we had 2 aces on the board, you would then have to choose which person had the highest kicker. So in this case, you've got an ace here. You also got a king and a king, which then goes to the second kicker, in this case the queen. So the player over there would be the one who gets to go first. Now, if for some reason you're tied up still after using the kickers, what will happen is the player to the left of the dealer, or closest to the left of the dealer, will initiate a round of betting just between the people that are tied, and whoever is willing to pay the most to go first will then initiate the pocket betting. Once you have your first player, you will initiate the pocket betting, and as the betting goes around, each player can raise once as they do this, and you follow the standard betting procedure of either calling or raising or folding. If you fold, you will fold all your cards and give them back to the dealer. Once betting is done, the best face-up set of cards will be the player that then starts actual play. Here's the hand for the player with the best face-up cards, and so let's say he plays a 5. Then the next player is going to look at his hand, and well, he's got an ace, he's got a 2, he's got a king. Well, let's say he decides to play the king, and it has to be equal to or greater than the card played prior to that, and obviously the king is going to be greater than a 5. Now the third player looks at his hand, and he only has 4s and 5s, so there's nothing he can do. He cannot play onto the pile. So what he'll do is he has to actually take the entire pile, bring it into his hand, and then he'll go around to the next player who now has a freshly cleared pile to play. And so now he can play whichever card he wishes, and the play will continue like that until someone is out of pocket cards. Now let's say there's nothing in the pile. Something to consider: if this was your hand, you are able to play pairs or 3 of a kind if you have it. You don't have to, you're not required to, but you can. So in this case, he could take these 2 4s, play both of them at the same time. The next person could then just play a single 5 on top of that if they wished. One thing I would like to point out that was not immediately apparent in the components video: all the 2101 cards, which of course 2, 10, and ace, they all have their own personalized design on them. So that's kind of cool. Makes it easy to recognize them when they're out on the board. Now something I want to show you, let's say this was the pile we had going right here. Okay, I've adjusted things a little bit. That's a little bit easier to see on the video. So you got the king here, and this is your hand. You don't have anything you can play, you think, except, oh wait, you remember that the 10 and the 2s are both wild. So how do they work? If you decide to play the 2, you can drop it on top of the pile. It doesn't matter what is on the pile, and now that sets it to low. So that is at the absolute lowest. Anything can be played on top of that. The next player then can play whatever they want to on top of the 2. Let's say instead you choose the 10. Put that on top of the pile. That clears it. These cards are now completely out of the game. They don't come back. You can put them in a pile wherever. For the round, of course. You can use them again next round. But for this round, those are gone. No chance of them ending back up in somebody's hand. So those are the 2 things you can do other than taking the pile into your hand. Okay, one other way to clear a pile. Let's say a 3 was played, and the next player played another 3. The next player played another 3, and the final player played a 4th 3. When you get 4 of a kind on the top of the pile clears, same as before, they're out of the game. So just to be clear, initially you're playing from your hand, from the pocket. You can only play from the pocket until you run out of cards in your pocket hand. So until you run out of cards in your hand, that's the only place you can play from. Once one person runs out of cards in their hand, play stops and another round of betting occurs. When that happens, it's initiated by the person who first ran out of cards in their hand and goes around the table just as before until it's all settled. Once the betting is complete, play will then pick up where it left off. Also, keep in mind that at any point during the game, you are able to play, whether you're playing from your hand or from the face-up cards, you are able to play either a single card pairs, or three of a kind. Now let's say this player over here actually ran out of his hand of cards first, his pocket cards first. And what's going to happen then is, once the betting is done, he now is able to play from his face-up cards. And so he can maybe play this 3. Meanwhile, everybody else is still playing from their hand. And they will continue to do so until they run out. Now, once an additional person runs out of cards in their hand, there's not another round of betting. Play just continues as normal. So that initial round of betting, called the face-up bet, only occurs when that first person runs out of cards in their hand. So that person played a 3, okay? So the person across the table might play a 9. And then the person over here, maybe they play another 9. And then it comes back to this gentleman here, and he plays his jack. And then the person across the table has just run out of cards in their hand, let's say, and so they drop this king out from their face-up cards. And now this person over here matches with this king. And we come back over here and we see, oh, this guy only has a queen left. So now what happens? He's going to pick up the pile. He now has all these cards in his hand, okay? So he's got a whole new hand of cards. And he takes one card from his face-up. So now he's got these pocket cards, and he has to play these before he can continue on to his face-down. Let's say he had to pick up the pile, and this was the pile, but he had those 2 cards down. He would choose one to go into his hand. The other one would stay out, but he would still have to play all these cards first before he could then play that 3. One additional rule, let's say this player had to pick up the pile. Now, if he wanted to, obviously he's also got to pick up one of his face-up cards over here, but he's got 2 3s. If he wants to, he can pick up this pair, or if he had 3 of a kind, he could do that. He's not required to. He can pick up just one, but if a pair or 3 of a kind is available, that also can be picked up. Okay, so we've got a pile here. You can see a little bit of play has been occurring from the face-up. Let's say it's this guy's turn. He plays his final face-up card. At this point, play stops again, and the face-down bet initiates. And just like the previous ones, you go around the table. Everybody does their face-down bets. Once that has completed, then you pick up where you left off. Now, once you're at a point where, so let's say the play is going around the table, and it's back to this guy here, and he's got his face-down cards. Now, he hasn't seen these face-down cards because you are not allowed to look at your face-down cards. He is now going to choose whichever one he feels comfortable with. The moment he touches a card, that's the card he has to play. So, well, look at that. It's a 10. So he was in luck. He just cleared this pile because, considering that was a king on top, he didn't have a whole lot of options. That got cleared off. It's now this guy's turn, so he'll play his 4, and then he'll play a queen. And so now he's got to come back over here. Touches this. He got a queen. He's doing pretty good. All right, so ace, ace, and then a 2. So he actually had a pretty good set of face-down cards. At this point, he is now won. He takes whatever there is in the pot, and he has won the game, or won the round anyway. Now let's change that up a little bit. You've got this pile here. There's an ace on top. He goes to play this face-down card, and oh, it's a 3. Now, obviously, you can't play a 3 on top of an ace. So because he can't play that 3 on top of the ace, he picks up the whole pile as well as the 3 that he attempted to play, goes into his hand, and he's playing from his hand now. If he had other face-down cards out there, he can't touch them again until he gets rid of his hand. So that's our rules video for the 2101 game. A few other rules I wanted to mention before we go. When are you able to fold cards? If you decide that you just don't have a hand you want to use. After the table bet's out and everybody's been dealt their cards, you can fold then, or you can fold at any time during any of the rounds of betting. But once play is initiated during those turns of play. At that point, you've got to play it out until another round of betting begins. You are able to call a bet out of turn order, but in doing so, you put that money in, and if you decide to fold when it actually gets around to you, you're still going to lose that money. And keep in mind, you're only able to call a bet out of order. You're not able to raise out of order. The standard all-in rules apply, so if you push all your chips in, you're only able to win from each player an amount equal to the chips you've put in. So any further betting beyond that would require a separate pot, so to speak, of chips for those players to keep track of what additional they'll win. If you'll remember from the video, that the pocket bet the person with the highest face-up cards initiates the pocket bet. Well, if that person folds during the pocket bet, then the person with the next highest face-up cards would begin play. When you get to the point where where the other rounds of betting have begun, so either the face-up bets or the face-down bets, if the person who initiated those rounds of betting folds during that round of betting, then the person to their left actually will initiate play once play resumes. If at any point another player asks you how many cards you have in your hand or in your pocket, you are required to tell them and show them the exact number of cards that you have. You can't lie about that. You can't hide it. That is public knowledge. Everybody is allowed to know that. You are allowed to pick up the pile at any time if you want to, even if you do have a card that you're able to play on it, unless the player after you only has one card. If they only have one card in their hand, then at that point you are required to play a card if you have one possible to play. You can't pick up the pile to let them then put their final card down without any sort of resistance. Okay, so that's our rules video for the 2101 game. I'm going to try to get a gameplay video of this. I'm not sure I'll be able to make that work with my game group. We'll see. If I don't get a gameplay video up, I'll have a review video coming up fairly soon. Thanks for watching. If you like what you see, please subscribe to my channel, like the video. I'm on BGG. My name there is The Baker 1983. Be sure to check out the previous components video for the 2101 game and all my other videos I've got out. And until next time, if you're bored online, board offline.